Alrighty. Okay, now I'm gonna press recording.
Recording in progress.
All right, guys. Hopefully the technical difficulties have been resolved. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Sacred Soulful Sundays with B. Pila. I'm so happy to have you guys on, and if all goes well, I'm streaming properly. So this week's topic...
Sorry.
Yeah?
But you're not streaming.
I'm not streaming? Okay.
No.
Okay. This, you know...
It seems like there might be some delays because last time, Deb, when you said that, she was already streaming. Like when you see the
it's telling me that it is streaming.
Okay, then it's maybe what Leslie's saying is correct.
Okay.
Maybe it doesn't start right away.
Okay.
Hi. Can you hear me? I'm gonna check and see if everything's working.
Oh wow, Justin. Oh, hi, Justin. You tell me if I keep going. Am I streaming? Yes.
It's on.
B, I see you on YouTube.
Okay, so then I'm on.
Yes, you are streaming.
Yeah.
Yay!
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess it's true what Leslie said. It lags.
Success. All right, here we go again. We are on Sacred Soulful Sundays, guys, with B. Pila. Thank you for joining me today. And today was a very interesting kind of development for me because I had a bunch of flashbacks about myself as it relates to this topic of the masculine, feminine energies. Okay? And first and foremost, I want to lay the groundwork for this topic in that what we think of as feminine and masculine is not necessarily related to gender. I want you to separate this from the standpoint of gender, of the physicality, of the third dimensionality of these ideas, and really just come from a place of energy. Okay, we know that everything is energy. We know that everything is vibrational. And therefore, if we separate these two ideas of the feminine and the masculine as energetic, we have a better objective way of looking at this without the conditioning of what we believe these things to be in our world. Does that make sense? Okay, so the energy of the masculine and the energy of the feminine is the first thing that I want to describe and bring into context for yourself. Okay, and I've talked about this concept before from a perspective of what femininity and the divine feminine especially is on this planet. And we all know that the majority of us, now we got a couple of guys on here today, but the majority of us on this chat are women, right? And historically, women, for the past quite a few hundreds of years, have been in a state of powerlessness or low power level from an energy. So think energy, think batteries, okay? Let's think of batteries and think of a low battery versus a high battery, right? What would you prefer, a high battery or a low battery? We all know that a high working battery or energy is better than a low energy, right? So when the feminine is on low and the masculine is on high, we get a disparity or out of balance condition that we see manifest in the outside world, right? Now, I was under the impression in myself that because we are in this state of being in which the feminine energy is rising, I mean, we feel that, we sense that, we know that our femininity from a perspective of the concepts of what that means. And let me go over that, okay? Because before I dive into that distinctly, I want to go over the energetic characteristics of the two sides so that you can kind of think of them in terms of what they represent. So firstly, I want you to understand that, are you all familiar with the symbol of the yin yang? Right? Imagine the yin yang symbol in your mind. It is basically a circle, correct? With a curved shape in the middle that is perfectly balanced. One side of it is black, the other side of it is white, correct? Now, within that circle, there are two smaller circles that are in the belly of the symbol, right? That is the opposite. The white circle is in the black part, and the black circle is in the white part. But basically, the yin-yang symbol represents balance, harmony, correct? This is what we are all, as human beings, striving for. We're striving to be in balance. We're striving to be in coherence. And would you say that the more balanced you are, the more you flow? Because just by its very nature, its circular shape is a wheel, correct? Circular shapes are a wheel. Have you ever had a square wheel? It really doesn't work, right? So circles move and flow in a very nice way. Our Earth is a perfect sphere, flowing with, is there any point that it gets stuck? Okay, no, a circle in its shape represents that. So the yin and the yang symbol represent actually the balance between the feminine and the masculine. Now, which side is feminine and which side is masculine? Can you guess? Yin is feminine and yang is masculine. And you know how you know that? Think of the genital organs of the woman. Think of the sexual organs of a woman and a man. Yang is projecting and yin is receptive. Right? Does that make sense? Easy peasy, right? So now you know that even though this is not about gender, when we are in physicality as one of those two forms, by nature, we express the characteristics of each of those forms. Make sense? Okay. So what does that mean exactly? Feminine qualities are receptivity, obviously, going in, passive, contractive, intuitive, and inward. Basically, yin, in, correct? Yang, or the masculine side of energy, is projective, active, giving, expansive, and outward. So basically, inward and outward. Right? Simple. So is one of these wrong or right? Is there such a thing as one of these energies being wrong or right? No, they're not. There is nothing wrong with yin, and there's nothing wrong with yang. When it is out of balance, it creates a reaction in our reality that can project something that we may not be in harmony with, such as the expansive qualities or projective qualities of anger, correct? An emotion that is very yang, right? Or depression, by this opposite, is very inward. Would you say that that has a yin quality to it, right? So those are two extremes on the negative side of polarity. And the reason I bring that up is because there is such a thing when we are out of balance as the wounded feminine or the wounded masculine. Okay? And when we are out of balance, whether it's within ourselves or as a culture or as a community of human beings, when we are expressing ourselves as wounded, we are out of balance with nature, and we are out of balance and coherence with everything. So the wounded feminine expression and the wounded masculine expression of those energies causes havoc with everything. And we have been in a wounded masculine, energetic timeline, for lack of a better word, for a very, very long time. And I was under the impression myself that as the feminine energy has been rising, which I think we are all witnessing, that we are no longer the women or the feminines that we were before. In fact, if you were to think in terms of how the feminine rising up, in the 70s, expressed themselves, 60s and 70s, where we burned our bras and we picketed and we this type of an energy, right? Are we still that way? I don't know of anybody burning their bras right now. Right now we're all saying, you know what, I need this thing. It's got to hold this gravity up, right? So, this whole projection, you see what, burning your bra and fighting is an expression of yang masculine energy. But is it really working? Does it work for us to be angry? Does it work for us to project? Not really, because we know that we cannot transmute something from the energy with which it was created. So if repressing the feminine side of everything was created through anger, you cannot wipe it out with anger, right? Going to the other extreme is just as bad. And I don't like to use the word bad. It's just as negative, right? It's the negative side of the polarity. So we don't want to live in those extremes, because being in balance is finding that perfect in-between state, correct? So what are the characteristics of a wounded feminine? Okay? The characteristics of a wounded feminine are when we become victims, when we are powerless, when we feel powerlessness, when we feel weak or we express weakness, when we manipulate, okay? Because manipulation is an act of inward projection. Withholding, when we withhold, we are a wounded feminine. Neediness, codependency, being oversensitive or over emotional. These are an expression of the wounded feminine. So if you take a moment and think about those words and what they mean, have you at any time in your life expressed yourself as a wounded feminine? Do you still have any of those qualities come up and be triggered in you? Okay? It's very interesting, but if you analyze it, there are moments in our lives where we do express ourselves as the victim, or we do feel powerlessness. We do get over emotional or oversensitive. These are moments that when we lose ourselves to the wounded feminine, right? Now, by the other side of the coin, we have the wounded masculine. What are the characteristics of the wounded masculine? The wounded masculine can be a perpetrator. can be an abuse of power. Have you guys ever witnessed abuse of power? Dominance, aggression, control, competition, being competitive, confrontation, criticism, abuse avoidance, unsupportive, or unstable. These are examples of the wounded masculine. And I'm sure we have witnessed that in our lives many times. In fact, some of us may have experienced these characteristics, like myself, in a man, and in others that have expressed themselves as wounded masculines, particularly in my case, abuse. And not necessarily physical abuse, although it could be, but emotional abuse. So when a man, or when we are, not just a man, when we are expressing ourselves as the wounded masculine, we can have those characteristics become part of our qualities and our expression. So why am I bringing all of this up? Because I was under the impression that we were all rising in our feminine nature in order, me included, by the way, guys, because I'm going to tell you a little story about my relationship with my feminine, okay? I was under the impression that it was a necessity at this time in the evolution of our humanity for the woman or the feminine energies to rise up in order to create balance with the masculine. Because we've been out of balance with a wounded masculine for a very long time. Okay? Hence the state of being that we're still in which we are constantly dealing with wars still on this planet. That is an expression of the masculine if there ever was one. Okay? So, before I tell you how I related to this, there are two things that I want you to visualize. One, remember, was the yin-yang symbol. And that is literally your target, your goal. Your goal is to be like a yin-yang symbol, in perfect harmony and in perfect balance, because when we are in perfect harmony and balance, we flow, we roll with punches like a nice little wheel should be, correct? Think of the masculine energy as visualize a tank. You have a tank in your head? Can you imagine a tank? A tank goes right through everything, right? It has the ability to fire ammunition, okay? It's like impenetrable. And it drives forward through everything, correct? Now, think of a feminine. Now visualize a butterfly. How does a butterfly fly? It flutters, it doesn't really have, like, have you ever seen a butterfly like fly in one straight line? I don't know about you, but I've never seen one. And this week was so beautiful because I saw so many butterflies in my realm. It was like symbolic for me to use this metaphor, because I thought of myself, what could I use as a visual for you guys to understand what femininity is? A butterfly is a perfect example because it never goes in a straight line. It flutters about as it feels like it intuitively, which is, by the way, an incredible characteristic of being a woman and being in your feminine, is to express your intuition. It flutters and goes to whatever flower it feels like it at the moment. It's like, oh, look at that one over there. Let me go. Ooh, look at this one. Ooh, I like this. This is pretty. Ooh, let me land on that. That's how a butterfly operates. Now, if you think of a butterfly and you think of a tank, they couldn't be more opposite to each other, correct? And this is exactly how I want you to imagine the energies within yourself. Are there moments in which you would rather be a tank? Are there moments in which you want to be a butterfly? Right? So those energies are within you. In equal measure, by the way. But if you are in the gender of a feminine, of woman, which is what I am and what most of you on this chat are, okay? By nature, you selected in your soul to come in this way. This was your choice. You had a choice. You had a 50-50 chance of like, okay, I think I'm going to be a man this time. Or I'm going to be a woman this time, right? And you purposely selected womanhood if you are here as a woman. So you made that choice for a reason. There was no coincidence in that. And that reason is so that you can do things in a certain way throughout your lifetime with a degree of purpose and alignment with your nature. Correct? So when we are out of balance with that, we are out of balance with everything because we create a resistance. And this whole chat here began almost 3 years ago because I taught my friend Deborah the lesson of what you resist persists. And resistance is a sign of a negative emotion showing up, right? When we resist something, it persists until it becomes released. It's an effect. Okay? So when you are in resistance of your own nature, it can create a very disharmonious and incoherent effect in your life. And let me tell you, I was out of balance for so many years with my feminine. Okay? And where do these things begin? Well, interestingly enough, it began and begins actually in your relationship with your mother. Now, my mother's on this chat, which is very interesting. And it's funny, but there is the beginning stages of how you are conditioned in your life and in your experiences in childhood are very influential as to whether you are in alignment with your feminine or whether you're not in alignment with your feminine. Okay? So you have to ask yourself, what are the characteristics of my conditioning in general as it relates to being a woman or being a man? Okay? Now, some of you that might have children and might be lucky enough to have one of each, a boy and a girl, okay? You can see the differences in each of them and their characteristics even from infancy, correct? And our latest, which has twins, little babies, I'm sure that already they are starting to identify with certain characteristics that are involved with their feminine or their masculine nature. And the best, of course, is to have them both perfectly balanced. But we have conditioning that we carry with us that are influential to whether we respond positively to being a woman or positively to being a man. My personal relationship with my feminine was completely out of whack for years and years and years. I think that my first experience as a child, I was incredibly intuitive by nature, which meant that I was very much in my feminine. I felt very connected with my femininity, and it wasn't until I reached a certain age in which I had a boyfriend that later became my husband that created a situation in me that was coming from a wounded masculine, okay, that I became the wounded feminine. And I got completely out of balance. And for years and years, I stayed in that realm. And I have to say, the way that began to heal was when I did the shadow work of hypnosis with Brian Weiss. And it wasn't until I realized that this characteristic in me didn't even come from this lifetime. So it's not about you, Mom. You did a great job. This came from other lives in which I had been abused and I hadn't dealt with this. And during hypnosis, I was very lucky to hear my higher self tell me that I was extremely angry that I had chosen to be a woman in this lifetime. So angry because so many lifetimes had been negative experiences for me being a woman. And yet my male lifetimes were perfectly fine. Even if I died in war, I died with honor. Even if I didn't make it until old age as a man, it was fine. But as a woman, I had experienced over and over again very negative experiences as a woman. In other words, being killed, marrying because I had to, having children, persecuted, abused, exploited, etc., 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 and the list goes on. And it's kind of like, for example, the light workers on this planet right now they still may carry baggage from having been burned at the stake in other lifetimes for having their intuitive or psychic gifts. It's kind of like that kind of trauma. When you have trauma embedded in your DNA and in your past lives, you carry them over and you still have resistance to them. So for years and years, I can tell you that I was not balanced in my feminine. And the feminine characteristics in me came out in different ways. For example, being a mother had a lot of resistance for me. Again, because in my past lives, being a mother meant being powerless, meant having no choice but to do that whether I liked it or not, or being forced to be a mother when I had no interest in being that. So I brought that forward. This is an example of what happened to me in getting in balance with my feminine. To the point that I didn't own a single pink item in my entire wardrobe. Because to me, pink was like, what? Me? Pink? Never. You're never going to see me in pink. Now, the funny thing about that is that it's not that there's anything wrong with pink. It's that if you feel resistance when you think of wearing pink, then that's a trigger and a message being told to you that you may have something there to work on, right? So this is the kind of energy that you need to get down to in yourself to understand whether you are in harmonious balance with both sides of you, which is the masculine and the feminine. And you can also do this analysis with the men in your lives. Are they wounded masculines? Do they express themselves in ways that are in balance? Are they in touch with the feminine side of themselves? Are the new generations of men coming forward becoming too codependent and weak? Do you see that expressing in the outside world? Personally, I do. I see a lot of this lack of balance on the masculine side. Hence why so many women, I believe, are having trouble finding men that are in a good, harmonious place with both sides of themselves. Does that make sense? Do you see it manifesting in the outside world? It's almost like we've gone to the other extreme. So as men try to take power away from women and find that they are actually not attracted to ignorant, weak, or submissive women, right? And then women try to take their power back from men, and they realize that they don't respect or are not attracted to a demasculinized man that is a confused, overgrown child. Do you see that out there? I don't know about you, but I do. I see a lot of this happening. It's almost like women are overdoing it and men are underdoing it to compensate. And this is not a good thing. We need to find balance, which was the big aha moment for me, because I thought, mistakenly, I want you to know, I felt that we were, in fact, taking our power back so that we could create harmonious balance on this planet, right? But what I realized is that the men have not been in their full power either. They are out of balance. And let me hold there for a minute so you can absorb this idea. Because if men were in their full power, they would not be abusive. They would not be exploitive. They would have just as much femininity as masculinity too. Because it is in this harmony that we truly are in our power energetically. When we are expressing ourselves in perfect balance, both feminine and masculine, and then we join forces with someone that is also balanced in their feminine and their masculine, there is nothing to hold you back. It's not about taking away power from someone. It's actually taking your power and letting their power shine. Does that make sense? This is what I'm getting to today. And this is what I feel was the lesson of the day for both me and I hope for you. I hope you're having this aha moment too. Because I think that one of the first things we have to do is become aware where we might be out of balance. Just like I did. I've been in the process of healing my wounded feminine for quite a while now. And the last piece of the puzzle for me was healing how I felt about mothering. In fact, the biggest blessing that arrived in my life was my granddaughters, because I felt that I was able to see myself as the mother that I didn't have a chance to be. Because I was so stuck in survival. And survival is a victimhood mentality, which is wounded. And I see a lot of that out there. I see a lot of women being in survival mode. I see a lot of us suffering from the anger, the repressed anger of that, which is usually manifests in our female organs like breast cancer or uterine cancer. Okay? It usually gets expressed through those avenues because those are a representation of our femininity. Okay? So one of the most amazing blessings of being a woman or being in your feminine is being able to create. Because our sacral chakra, which is our womb, is the seat of our creativity. It is no coincidence, Maritza, that you have had these two beautiful babies come through you at this time. Because your healing and the work that you did has allowed you to manifest that in a beautiful, clean, pure way. And the world benefits from that because those children come with that level of purity and less baggage than they would have had in the past if you had had them 20 years earlier, right? Don't you think? You wouldn't be ready.
And I did 2 constellations that year before. And listen, thinking about getting pregnant at 45 and be able to get pregnant at 46, and you said no. And I did say, okay, I'm going to put it in the universe. But I did so much it was so profound, the work that I did for myself.
Yes.
And already having my relationship with Mia, that I think God said, okay, you're ready.
Yeah.
And then he put a bonus in it.
He put a bonus and gave you 2 for 1. You got a 2-fer. Well, I can tell you that I've witnessed that. And that's why I brought it up, Maritza. Thank you for sharing that, because I believe that just to have the capacity to heal ourselves at such a deep level at 45 and be able to have our child healthily at 46 and feel great about it is huge. This permission that we are being given at this time to be authentically in ourselves is huge. And the question is, what are we going to do with it? How are we going to show up in the world as we heal our feminine and as we help the world heal both the feminine and the masculine? Because until we heal both of those from the chaos and resistance that we have showing up in our reality, we will not eliminate the disharmony and I call it the turbulence that is out there. Okay? So we've got to start with ourselves first, right? So I challenge you to take this talk today and to understand better what is happening within you. Are you expressing yourself in any way still as a wounded feminine or a wounded masculine? Are you being a natural feminine? Because it is obvious that if you were born as a female, there was a selection in your soul to choose that gender for a reason. Okay? And I'm talking about this in the most politically correct way because this is a loaded topic these days. And I hate for it to be so because this is not about gender. This is about energy. So is your energy showing up in a natural feminine state? What does that represent? Let me describe it for you. Unconditional love, understanding, nurturing, tenderness, kindness, intuition, creativity, feeling, stillness, flow, radiance, sensitivity, surrender, emotional, and most importantly, ease and allowing. Is there anything that you are in a resistance to with regards to those energies that I've just described? How do you feel within yourself authentically? And then I'll describe what the masculine side of you is, when it is masculine, is it showing up with confidence? Is it showing up with protection, with inner strength, with clarity, with responsibility, with boundaries that are healthy, with focus, with courage, logic, discipline, support, capable, stable, certain, assertiveness. Do you see how these characteristics, they're masculine, but they can certainly be part of our lives, correct? It's not about one or the other, it's one and the other. So when we express ourselves in unconditional love, but with certainty and with inner strength, we are in balance. When we are being protective, but also nurturing with kindness, we are in balance. Doesn't that make sense? Don't those two just go beautifully together? Wouldn't you want that to be a part of your inner being, as well as what you have in your partner and in the human beings that are around you? If we expressed ourselves with that kind of balance, jumping each side of the feminine and the masculine equally, doesn't that feel so much better than when we are out of balance? This is the energy that I want you to be in tune with and understand from the perspective of, am I out of balance? Am I in a state of harmony with myself? And this is the kind of expression that we need to transmit to others, to our children, to our colleagues, to our friends. Are we showing up fully balanced in our feminine and our masculine? Because we can't expect the world to reflect back to us what we are not. This is just the way it is. When we are in a state of balance, this is what shows up for us on the outside. Because as within, so without. We know this rule. We understand this universal law, but are we integrating it? And integration is actually what we're doing here. We are integrating our yin and our yang in order to have a beautiful flowing circle of balanced harmony. It's not a wrong or a right. In fact, one of the biggest challenges that we are experiencing right now is that we make issues out of this. We make issues as to whether we have the right pronoun. You know, and this is a problem. This is a problem that we are living through. You know? Yes, Lily?
B, you know what all of this reminds me of? I mean, this topic is not what I thought it would be. It's much better than what I because you expanded it in a way. But I think, did you see the movie Barbie by any chance?
Yes. Yes.
You know the part where the mother, America, I think that's her name, the
Yes.
character,
Yes.
is talking about, okay, so it's balancing, like she's saying, being kind, but not too kind, because then you're perceived a certain way.
Yes.
Okay.
I love it. And it's true. We should all watch Barbie again after this and really analyze how that is such a beautiful movie to show exactly when things get out of balance, how chaotic it becomes. Right? It's so funny, but it's actually so true. You know, and aspects of ourselves, at least for myself, because I want to use myself as an example, aspects of ourselves sometimes need to be healed and brought into balance. For me, I know that the piece about being a mother was a very deep-rooted a deep-rooted wound that I had to heal. Okay? I spent most of my life striving in survival mode for the sake of achieving what I felt that I had not been able to achieve lifetime after lifetime, being submitted to powerlessness. Okay? And at the end of the day, I realized that I had abandoned the time that was so precious in finding love for my children, you know, and that needed to come into coherence, and it was completely out of balance. Some of us may do it the opposite way. Some of us may say, I have to be a mother at this moment, and whatever else is going to take second fiddle to this, right? And it's funny because my sister has experienced life completely opposite to me. You know, she dedicated herself to being more of a mother. And, you know, I think that she never had an issue with that. I did, for whatever reason. I felt like I had an agenda. Okay? I had an agenda, and that agenda took over my life. So it's not whether it's wrong or it's right. It's just understanding that it's not balanced, that it's not the best way to be. Just like Barbie trying to take her power, you know, discovered that just taking your power back is not about what's right. It's actually finding the balance between the two powers is the best of all worlds. And that's within yourself first, because everything, like you said, everything, like we said, happens from within. When we get into balance and coherence with both sides of ourselves, the left and the right brain, which is also a representation of the yin and the yang, by the way. If you look at a brain and you split it down the middle, the left and the right side, the left, as you know, is the more logical side. The right is the more creative side, correct? The more artistic side. That's why they say, oh, you're so right brain, or you're so left brain, or you're so this. And in reality, finding a balance between those two is the best of all worlds, because then you get the benefits of creativity, but the discipline and the logic of putting it through and going forward. So if something resonated within you that says, wow, you know, I feel that I am not expressing myself at this moment in balance and in harmony between my feminine and my masculine, I'm not in coherence, and you picked up on any of these characteristics that are showing up for you, find yourself the awareness to take the time to ask the question, where did this come from? Why is this showing up for me? Okay? Why am I out of balance with these two sides of myself? And by the way, just by the very nature of our physicality and being in 3D, your body will be the first one to tell you. Okay? When you're feeling a disease, an ailment, an injury, a pain within one side of your body or another, it will be a sign, a red flag that you are out of balance. So it'll show up for you in your physical form, just as a reminder that your inner being is out of harmony. So when you're feeling something in your body, and that's one of the best ways to capture whether there is something out of whack, is sit with yourself and ask, how am I feeling? What's my body feeling like? And look at Evelyn with her Barbie sweatshirt in pink. Perfect. I just realized.
I love pink. Yeah. You see?
I
My
love
favorite
it.
shirt, by the way,
I love
right now.
So
By the way, B, I have a question. Sorry.
sure.
So, okay, if the answer is yes, what tools or techniques do you recommend that we can heal from that kind of wound?
Oh, I love that question, Evelyn. Thank you. Firstly, when you get to the bottom of what feels feminine to you, okay? For example, if nurturing is a feminine characteristic and you feel out of balance, like you're too masculine, like you're feeling like you've had to be in that survival mode. Let's get this done. I got to pull this through. Check off my to-do list. All of these traits, I got to manage all these people. Whatever that is, whatever that energy feels like, if you feel like you've been in that mode too long, self-care and nurturing is a great way to get back to balance, right? So taking a hot bath, putting a nice cream that's aromatic on yourself, brushing your hair, doing your nails, whatever feels feminine to you, wearing a dress, putting on some heels, putting on some makeup, whatever is the characteristic of femininity to you. By the same token, if you're being a little bit of a wallflower and you're like, oh, I'm not going to do anything right now, whatever, and you feel that you are procrastinating getting something done, being a director, managing your life, getting things in order, right? Following your goals. If you're lacking in that department, then you could enlist some masculine qualities, right? You could, get up and do some exercise and like, okay, I'm gonna get this done today. I'm gonna tackle this problem, right? So we can assert ourselves because assertiveness is a characteristic of masculine trait, right? Remember, think of the tank and think of the butterfly. Which one do you want to be? And I'm using these extremes, okay, guys? So maybe you're a butterfly sitting on a tank. I don't know. But that would be ideal. So if you need to have those tank qualities because you're lacking them, because you're being a little bit wishy-washy and you're like, oh, whatever, maybe that you're out of balance, right? So I think it's really important to understand the conditioning of your past and what means, and this is where your mother comes in, by the way, understanding what type of woman did your mother represent. Are you like her? Are you not like her? Where are you like her and where are you not like her? By the same token, you can do the same thing with your father. What kind of masculine did your father represent? And when you think about him, what characteristics did you like about him that were masculine? And what characteristics did you not like? You see, I've done this exercise, and actually this is part of the work in Mark Wolyn's book, It Didn't Start With You. Getting down to your core relationship with your parents and writing down the pros or the cons or the energy and the feelings behind that is incredibly good for you, because you're going to get like reveals of things that are within you that you didn't even recognize were within you. So this exercise is incredibly powerful, is to sit down and write, what characteristics did you like about your mother? And maybe not. And then what characteristics did you like about your father? And maybe not. Because those are the roots. Those are the models that you grew up with. Those are the models of femininity and masculinity that you grew up with. Right? Did you like that your mother nurtured and took care of your family and cooked for you and, cooked for your family? Or did you sense that she had a resistance to it? Like, did she do it because she had to? Or did she do it because she loved to? There's a big difference in what you witnessed as a child. And let me tell you something. Children are so sensitive that they know the truth always. Right?
Speaking of which, B, I wanted to share something because I went through a transformation maybe 7 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked really hard on my feminine energy, like hardcore. Like I was wearing.
Like everything you do.
Like, no, literally. But then I started having some challenges with my business. And that's when I learned that I needed to, it's like, the masculine and the feminine is like whatever you are or whatever you were, you have to honor them like the ex-boyfriend, but with the one that gives you a good lesson. And my masculine energy is what made me a drive woman, and I was like hustling, and I was so like committed and so organized to do what I wanted to do. But because I was in this butterfly transformation, I started neglecting my business. So
yes.
I said, "Whoa, what's happening
hello,
here?"
you also got pregnant with twins.
No. This is before.
This is before.
This is before. Yeah.
So this is a cycle that you've been through a few times, Maritza.
No, the one that I just went through, it's because I opened. So we are like an onion, right? So we peel and peel and peel. Something else come up after I gave birth. It's a trauma that I had from before that I never talk about it. Talking about that this year was the year that you need to like open up things that you never wanted to talk about, so that should come out. But it's good because I was able to talk about it. I heal it. But what I was trying to tell you with this information is, even if you live in the masculine energy, you need to honor it. You need to like give a love to it and say, okay, thank you for showing me the way, but now I want to be that. And then when you start loving that part of you, the balance is created and it's beautiful. And then mothers represent, so when B's talking to us about what's the relationship you have with your mother, mothers represent money, work, business, opportunities. But fathers represents the doors of heaven. That's when everything opens up for you. So even if your father is not alive, or if you can still work energetically with his energy. So just a little information.
Thank you, Maritza. Thank you for sharing that. In fact, I really feel that what you just helped us to understand better is the consciousness of understanding when you are in your feminine or in your masculine. And if you're using it with not in a wounded state, but in a natural state, that's where you need to be. So remember the characteristics that I just gave you for femininity and masculinity, and I'm going to post them on the chat afterwards, guys, okay? When you are not in the wounded side of you, but you're in the healthy, natural, feminine, masculine state, and you're using it to your best ability, that's when, wow, you're on target. You're in flow. You're in ease and grace. Okay? When you are expressing the wounded parts of the feminine or the wounded parts of the masculine, that's when something's out of whack, and this is when you need to step in and say, ooh, hold on a second. Why did I do that? Why am I acting this way? What is wounded in me? It's the awareness that allows you to heal it. Because when we have things in our subconscious mind, in the back of our mind, and they're not in the forefront, we can't heal them. And healing, remember, is just releasing the resistance to that energy that is a blockage. Remember that. Healing only needs to be when you release the block, like we cleaned it, right? We're aware of it now, and now we can address it. Like Maritza says, I recognized that I'm out of balance when I go full speed ahead in my business and I work long hours and I get everybody done and I get everything done, but then I neglected my family, right? I neglected that part of me, or I neglected myself. I didn't meditate, I didn't exercise, I didn't eat well, I got completely out of whack. Self-care is one of those very important elements because self-care is self-love. So we must remember to love ourselves first.
It's funny you mentioned that, V, because my channel is all about self-care now, and having the second act to focus on your needs and what brings you joy.
Yes, because as women, by the way, we have been conditioned to give until we don't have anything to give anymore. Like we're done. Like we just exhaust it. It's so, yes, it is so easy to fall into that when you have a business, because businesses are a 24/7 endeavor. You know, like especially entrepreneurial businesses. When you are in business for yourself, which is what I have been most of my life, it is so easy to fall into the trap of working 24/7 and neglecting your self-care. So, and you probably being a mother and a wife for so many years, as well as working, you know, can easily fall into the trap because the kids come first. The husband comes first. And then you are there at the end. If there's 5 minutes, maybe I'll take a shower and wash my hair, right? we you know, this is how we get to, and we need to, that is not good, because we are out of balance, and that'll show up. What's crazy about it is that when these things are in our subconscious mind, we're not really aware that these things are going on. And they show up in the outside world to tell us. What happens is, okay, we get sick. Or it's like, oh my God, I got the worst cold ever. I had to be in bed all day. You know why you had to be in bed all day? Because you hadn't stopped. You know, so the body said, you know what? I'm going to make you sick because you're not stopping. So I'm going to stop you.
That's true.
You see, it's
true.
It's very simple. It works perfectly. Nature will always try to find the balance, even if it has to make you sick, right? So it will hit you across the head from the outside in because you haven't noticed from the inside out. So you leave it no choice but to tell you in a radical way, it's time to get you in bed because you obviously don't understand that you got to stop and rest. Right? So, you know what? However, if you do say, okay, I'm going to sit down here for 20 minutes, I'm going to have my tea, I'm going to read my book, I'm going to just I don't care if the world falls apart around me, I am going to do this. Guess what? You're probably avoiding your body getting a cold a week down the road, stopping you in a negative way. Correct? But that's not the way we think about it. We think about it the other way. I feel guilty. I can't believe I'm sitting here drinking this tea while the world is falling apart around me. Oh my God. Right? This is how we think. This is how I can't believe I didn't do that. Oh my God, I forgot to call that person. I forgot to do this. I forgot to send that email out. Oh my God, I didn't do this. My to-do list, look at the to-do list. It's too big. Oh my God. This is how we function. And then instead of self-care, we work ourselves to death. The body says, stop right now. You get sick. We start the cycle over again. Let's do it. Rinse and repeat. Rinse and repeat, right? So this is what this masculine feminine concept is about. It's awareness.
By the way, I'm sorry to interrupt you one more time, but
Yeah.
it's the book. It's a very little book from Louis Hayes, like a little dictionary, and it tells you exactly the muscles and the organs that you're having problems with, and what it represents, and what you should do. It just tells you, like, if your lower back is bothering you, it's because it's sexual pressure.
I have that on my nightstand.
So do I.
Yes.
Every time I said, okay, it's fine. Yeah, it hurts what's happening with me.
You Can Heal Your
I
Life.
need that book.
You Can Heal Your Life, it's called, by Louise Hay. And in the back, it has a glossary of physical ailments that, and it'll give you an insight as to why something is showing up for you. Love that book. I go to it all the time. I mean,
Yeah, but they have a small one that
A
is
little
just
mini?
focused. Yeah, they have a mini one. That's the one that I have.
Yes, you can
And that's
heal your
exactly,
life.
They just focus, and it starts in alphabetical order. So you can go in through whatever happens to you, now you know.
Oh, I'm sure
And
there's a
it's
cheat
funny.
sheet. There probably is even one online because Louise Hay's book is like a Bible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have it. I have the whole book that I go to, and the back is the glossary, and I use that as my reference point. Trust me, guys, there is no coincidences in the connection to mind, body, spirit. We are a mind, body, spirit complex. Period. End of story. Now, if we ignore one side of ourselves, okay, we get out of harmony and balance. Simple as that. So one of those three aspects of you is going to show up to tell you, hey, listen to me, okay? So, and usually the body is the one that stops you. The body is the one that says, oh my God, I'm really, really sick. I've got to stop because I got to get well, right? You don't want to let it get to that place. You want to, you know how you know that everything is fine? When you feel good. It's so simple. Esther Hicks is fantastic with that concept. Abraham Hicks, all she says, how do you know if everything's okay? Because you feel good. That's it. It's so easy, right? Any negative emotion, any negative feeling within you will turn inward and work against you if you do not address it. It's very simple. And if you use the tools of the feminine and the masculine energy and think of yourself in terms of finding perfect harmony, okay, you will be in your full power. We want to be like fully charged batteries using both the right and the left brain. This is a polarity universe. We live in a three-dimensional state of polarity, right? In which even our power supplies are positive and negative. Okay? It's pretty obvious, but we don't think of it that way. So when we want to be in fully charged batteries, we want both sides of our hemispheres to be working together. We want both sides of our body to be working together. We want every aspect of who we are to be in flow, don't we? Yes. And when we are in flow, everything flows as a result. Whatever shows up out there is telling you whether you're okay or not. So pay attention. Pay attention. So I will post this information on the chat because I think it's really valuable to revisit the words that indicate whether you are in a natural, harmonious state with your feminine and your masculine, or whether you are in a wounded state of your feminine and masculine. And notice the expression of the two within you and how it shows up in your body as well as in your outside world. If you do this, I guarantee you, you will see incredible changes show up around you. And happy people make a happy world. So I hope this has been helpful.
Yeah.
Yes?
I have a quick funny story to tell you.
Tell me.
I once went into an Indian store, and for years I've suffered from fatty liver and acid reflux. And I've been to doctors, and they tell you the same thing. Oh, get the Prilosec, fatty liver. All Cuban girls have fatty liver or whatever.
Really?
And
I didn't know that.
Yes. So that's what I said. All the Cubans have fatty liver. So I went into the Indian store, and the guru or the guy says, "Your liver is angry." I'm like, "Huh? I'm not angry." Because there's something you're angry about. That's why you have fatty liver. I'm like, "You're crazy. What are you telling me? I'm not angry." So I went home and I thought about it, and I go, well, yeah, maybe there are a couple things I'm angry about. But anyway, having lost, I ended up losing the weight and reversing the fatty liver and getting rid of the acid reflux. And that's why I'm so happy right now. But it was a funny story because I was completely thrown off guard when he said you're angry about something. I was like, I'll just put my anger
Yes,
out.
I mean, I love that it's an Indian because our culture, you know, our Western mentality, the medical world tells us that we're just going to treat Prilosec. That's the solution, baby. Yeah. Don't deal with anger, just deal with a little pill. No. So it's true that the physical body will reflect what you are, and it showed up in your liver, right? Because that's pent up anger within you.
Yes.
So it makes perfect sense to me. And this is why having a better understanding of our physicality and how it's connected to everything else is so important. Okay, so if this is helpful, if it brings about an understanding of, oh my goodness, this is showing up, why is it showing up, and what side of me is asking to be heard, okay, and get in balance, then I've done my job. I think having this awareness within ourselves, at least when I got this awareness, in hypnosis, by the way, because I literally had my higher self scream inside my head and tell me, because I am so freaking angry that I came as a woman. That's why I had migraines for years and years and years every time I got my period. Every time I got my period, I had 2 weeks of horrific migraines. Horrific. And in fact, by the way, talking about physical imbalances, hormonal, because we are incredibly, women especially, are little hormone machines, guys. Okay, we have a monthly cycle of hormones surging through our body every month. Okay, and when you are out of balance in your hormones, it's a perfect reflection of an out of balance feminine side. Just a little tip, okay? So when your hormones get out of whack, all right, there is something there to be listened to. There's an epidemic of hormonal imbalance out there. Okay? Yeah. So just pay attention to when you're feeling or you're getting diagnosed that your hormones are out of whack. Okay, that's a very, very, very big sign. So don't let it get to the physical body before becoming aware that it is inside of the rest of you. Okay, don't let it manifest in physical form. Become aware, hopefully, before that happens. And awareness brings healing. Okay, so we can address it. I hope this has been helpful. Thank you, thank you, thank you for joining me on Sacred Soulful Sunday. For those of you who have not subscribed to my YouTube channel, I hope you do. Please like and subscribe for me because it helps to get the word out. And I hope you've enjoyed everything that I've had to say today. We'll see what comes up for me next week. Thank you. Namaste, ladies. Love you all.
Thank you, B.
Bye. Namaste.
Thank you.
Bye, beautiful ladies. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.